this problem from the worksheet, you are told that IK, that whole diagonal, is 35. I don't know that anybody paid any attention to that at all. But it's showing that 4x plus 3 is that little tiny piece. If it's this little tiny piece, what's this piece down here? The same thing, 4x plus 3. Now, I don't know about you, but I learned way back in the first part of the year that little piece plus little piece equals big piece, didn't you? So that means 4x plus 3 plus 4x plus 3 equals the whole thing, 35. Okay? Now you solve. 8x plus 6, subtract 6. 8x is equal to 29. Divide both sides by 8. And I think that's the one you got, 3.625. And did it ask you for x? I think it did. Okay? There you go. Read the problems carefully, folks. Because when you take that parallelograms, special parallelograms, and we may go through 2 of these today just because, 4 right angles. What kind? All we've gone over so far are quadrilaterals, which are quadrilaterals that are parallelograms. And then what about all those other 4-sided figures? What side's definition, or what figure is a parallelogram with 4 right angles? It's a rectangle. This is the definition of a rectangle, folks. You got to lock into 4 right angles. Now, what other figure has 4 right angles? A square does, but in addition to those 4 right angles, it also has what? 4 congruent sides. So see, there's like an extra step you got to kick in there. A blank is a parallelogram with 4 congruent sides. That's the only condition. What kind of 4-sided figure is a parallelogram with 4 congruent sides? It's a rhombus. Very good. It is a rhombus. It is a rhombus. So a rectangle with 4 congruent angles. These are all the definitions. And a rhombus looks like a diamond, but it's not. We don't call it a diamond. It does look like a parallelogram, and it also looks like a square sometimes. Not always, but sometimes. Rectangles. Look at these. You got 2 main things. You got to know that you have 4 right angles. And you have to know that the diagonals are congruent. They are congruent to each other. Let's call this rectangle ABCD. If the diagonals are congruent to each other, then I could say that if AC is 10, then what do you know about BD? It's 10 as well. Do you see that, folks? Don't just write down what you see up there. Think about what you're writing. Because some of you take good notes because you just copy what you see. Do you understand what you're writing? Sometimes, if you don't, you need to ask, okay? That's a rectangle. And then look how many other properties it has. It has the 5 properties of a parallelogram. What do you know about a rectangle's opposite sides? They're parallel and congruent. What do you know about its opposite angles? It's congruent. What do you know about consecutive angles? What do you know about their diagonals? Bisect each other. That means that each of these little pieces, if the whole diagonal is 10, what is each of the little inside pieces? They're 5 each. And that's based upon the diagonals bisecting each other and being congruent. Okay? Look at another one. Rhombus. The plural of rhombus is rhombi. 4 congruent sides. All right, I'll buy that. Let's call this thing ABCD. How do I show the second condition? How do I show it? Diagonals are perpendicular. What's that mean? What do the diagonals form? Thank you. They form right angles. Let's call this point in the middle. We'll call it point E. The diagonals are perpendicular. Ooh, this sets up a whole bunch of stuff for us. Then if the diagonals are perpendicular in a rhombus, what kind of triangles are we dealing with in there? On the interior? 4 right triangles. Ooh, a whole bunch of stuff could become available to us. Look at this next one. It says diagonals bisect each angle. That means that if that whole angle C is 100, then what's each of those little pieces? 50, sorry. And I'm just choosing random numbers, y'all. They're not always going to be 50 and 50. It could be 60 and 60. It could be 30 and 30. Right on. Okay? Now, the diagonals are perpendicular, and the diagonals bisect each angle. Folks, what do you think is going to be true about AE and EC? They're going to be congruent because they bisect each other. I'll put DE is 8, and EB then would be what? 8. I'm just choosing random numbers, no significance at all, but I'm choosing values so you will see that those pieces are congruent to each other. Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay? They would both be how much? 40. Very good. How'd you know that? All right, look what he just asked. He said, how am I going to find that angle right there? Well, he didn't ask it, but he kind of said it. If you know you've got, I'm just blowing it up, okay? Right here. If I know that angle is 50 and I know this is a right angle, how are you going to find that one right there? 180 minus 90 minus 50, which is 40 degrees. Very good. Which means that whole angle at the bottom is what? 80. 40 plus 40 is 80. All of that whole angle D would be 80 degrees. Yes, sir. Which is 40. So many different things we can do with these problems. Properties. Okay, so the properties of a rectangle, what's the definition say? It's from the very first page. Definition says that a rectangle has 4 whats? 4 right angles. The rhombus has 4 whats? Congruent sides. And then, beautiful, theorems, properties, gorgeous, beautiful. Watch this. Let's apply what we know. It says a woodworker constructs a rectangular picture frame. Okay? I'm telling you, you will see this on SOL review stuff. You may see this on the SOL test. If it says something about framing up a picture or a house, the way you ensure that it's a rectangle is to make sure that the diagonals are congruent to one another. I am so delighted that this information is riveting and you are paying attention. That will benefit you, folks. Sorry, this isn't really what you want to be doing right now. Sorry. It does happen, doesn't it? Look at this one. Woodworker constructs a rectangular picture frame so that JK is 50 centimeters and JL is 86. We got to find HM. Right there. How are we going to find it? Don't say anything out loud. You don't say anything out loud. How are we going to find it? It's a rectangular picture frame, so what do you know? I can't hear with all the fans going. What, Justin? Why? If the diagonals are congruent, I can't hear anything with fans on, y'all, so forgive me. If the diagonals are congruent and JL is equal to 86, then that means KM is 86, right? But we're trying to find HM, which is 1/2 of KM, or 1/2 the diagonal, isn't it? Or 1/2 of 86, which is 43. Do you have to write all that out the way I did? No. Could it be just as easy as what Justin said? Well, ain't it 86 divided by 2? Yes, that's it. Is it as easy as that? Absolutely it is. You got to understand why. Okay? You have to understand why. Just out of curiosity, what would KH be? Same thing. Why? Why? Say it again. They bisect each other. Diagonals bisect each other. Is that a property from the rectangle, or is it from something else? From the parallelogram. Very good. You got to know that. Moving on. Beautiful. Gorgeous. Carpentry. Here we go. The rectangular gate has diagonal braces. Find HJ and HK. That's the first piece, and then the next piece. Well, what is HJ? Everybody? 48 inches. Why? Because opposite sides are congruent. What, Daniel? How are we going to find HK? Somebody's got to talk us through this. Say it again. Add them up. So you're saying that if this little piece is 30.8, then this little piece is also 30.8? And 30.8 times 2 is what? 61.6, which is going to be the length of GJ. Do you guys agree? And since diagonals are congruent, it's also HK. You got it. Okay? The diagonals bisect each other. And diagonals are equal. They are congruent. They equal the same thing in a rectangle. Folks, does this make sense? Decent, okay so far? Write this down. Rectangles. Oh, I refuse. Yeah, I'm not telling you how to do these. Tell me why. Why? Tell me why. Because they're what? Tag team miss. They're what? Too many things? What's congruent? The whose? The diagonals are congruent. Why? Because they're rectangles. It does look like a lot of stuff, but when you back up and look at it, What are we given? We're given diagonal information. What do we know about the diagonals in a rectangle, folks? They're congruent. How are you going to solve example 3? And 4 and 5 and 6? Set them equal to each other and solve. Go, do these. 3 minutes. How am I going to set up example 3? 5x plus 2 equals 12. Subtract, what's it tell you to find? Find the value of x. So 5x equals 10, x is equal to 2. Let's see here. X is equal to 3. How many of you got it for example 4? Rock on. Very good. How many of you got 2? Hold on, let me look. Hold on, let me look for number this one. Number this one. That's very good. 5x plus 6 equals 31. That's 5. How many of you got 5 for the last one? Facile or difficile? Muy fácil, sí. We. Diagonals do what in a rectangle? They bisect each other and they're congruent. Okay? You got to know that. Hey, just out of curiosity, if this whole thing is 14 right here, what's that piece right there? Oh, listen at you. All right. Woo, what now? Are we still dealing with rectangles? No, now we're dealing with the rhombus. Okay? With rhombi. Now we've got to use the triangle thing. And we may have to use the parallel line thing. Folks, you got to lock into this. Okay? You got to buy into it, number one. And then you got to bank on knowing your parallel lines. If this... No, are we dealing with diagonal measures or angle measures? We're dealing with angle measures, okay? What do you know about the diagonals in a rhombus? They bisect each other. What else do they do? Ooh, they're perpendicular. What's that mean? They cross at 90-degree angle. Oh, well, I'll be. What am I looking at now? That's a triangle. Oh, it's a right triangle. How am I going to find x? How about that, y'all? Is that right? Is it easy? Okay. How you going to do the next one then? How then? No. How are you going to do it if it's not an angle measure? Equal it to 180. Because we know that the diagonals are what in a rhombus? We know that diagonals are perpendicular, bless you, which means, hello, right triangle, does it not? Now, how are you going to set up that problem to solve for x? 4x plus 5 plus equals 180. Do you guys agree with that? Even if you don't, you need to write this down. Okay? So then we just go with what we know how to do. 4x and x is 5x plus 95. Subtract 95. Is that 85? Yep. And when we divide 85 by 5, what do we get, y'all? 17? Facile or difficile? Facile? Okay. Please do this work. Please pay attention. Look at example 9. I want you to do 9 and 10 yourselves, please. How many of you got 40? For example, 9. How many of you got 8? For example, 10. Facile or difficile? Facile. Let's keep going. It says TVW. Yes, sir. Yep. Yep. Plus 90. Hey, what's another way I could solve this? That last one. Do I have to add 90? No, why not, Maddie? I don't have to add 90. I'd have to change what it was equal to. $90, why? It's just 90. The two acute angles in a right triangle always total what? 90 degrees. That's another way for us to set the problem up and still get the same answer. Okay? Same thing. Look at this example 11. TVWX is a rhombus. Find TV. All right. When you see the word rhombus, immediately, what do you need to throw in this picture? Right angles, right? I better throw it in there just to see. All four sides are congruent. Mark up your picture. But, ooh, I'm given 2 angle measures. I know that because they have degrees. And then I'm given 2 side measures. And they're not just side measures, they're what kind of sides? They're opposite sides. What do I know about opposite sides? They're congruent, aren't they? What am I going to work with? Am I going to have to find A or do I have to find B? Look what we're finding. TV. TV is a what? It's a side. Bless you. I have to find a side. How am I going to solve for TV? I know that all sides, not just opposite, but I know that all sides in a rhombus are congruent. Therefore, XT is going to be equal to WV, right on? Chase, is that right? Yeah? XT is just what the guy said, 3B plus 4 equals 13B minus 9. Can we solve that? Heck yes. I'm going to subtract 3B because I don't like to have a negative variable. And then I'm going to add 9 to both sides. And I get 13 equals 10B. What? And I'm going to divide both sides by 10. And I get B is equal to 13 over 10. Is that okay? Can I reduce that? Do I want to change it to a decimal? No, I do not. Am I done? Say it again. I got to find TV. I have not found, well, Carson, there's nothing there. But they're all congruent. So what am I going to plug it into? 5A minus 5? Why not? Because that's an angle, you ding-dong. What am I going to plug it into? 3B plus 4. I'll buy that. Or, can I plug it into 13B minus 9? Yep. 13 over 10. Write this down. What's 13 times 3? 39 over 10 plus 4. Because I divided both sides by 10. Right here. No, I divide by 10. Because I've got 13 equals 10B. I'm dividing both sides by 10. That means B is 13 over 10, right? Okay. It's 39/10 plus 4. You guys have got a calculator. I don't. Throw that in the calculator math bracket and tell me what you get. Did you get 7.9? Nope, you didn't divide by 10. Questions? $7.9 is TV. Do you understand what I'm doing? Yes or no? Yeah. Some of you do. Some of you no response. Pardon me? Because 3 times 13 is 39. (79/10), which is 7.9. How you going to find angle VTZ? Put it in your calculator. And put 39/10 in parentheses plus 4. And then math bracket and see what you get. I don't have a calculator, so I've got to do it old school. Okay? You see it? Yeah. How you going to find VTZ? Talking about angles or sides? Angles. VTZ, which is right here. I need to know that angle right there in that corner. How do I even begin? No. Why do you say that? You're seeing it a different way than I'm seeing it. What did you say? Say it again. But 14a plus 20 is going to which angle? The right angle. Huh. The right angle is equal to how much? Oh, can I find A? Yes. How? Equal it to 90. 14a plus 20 is 90. (70 divided by 14, is that 5? Yep. Okay. So my answer is 5, right? No. What do I do? Plug it in where? Which one? The other one. Why, Maddie? No, because is that asking for? Remember, it's asking for angle VTZ, this one right here. It's asking for that angle right there. Okay, say it again. Can't hear it because of the fans. If I figure out that 5a minus 5 angle, well, I know angle VTZ. What do you know about the angles? They are bisected by the diagonals. Go back and look at your properties. Opposite angles are bisected. Diagonals right here. Diagonals bisect each angle. That means that those angles in the corners are equal to each other. What's 25 minus 5? 20. So that means this angle is 20. What's this one right here? 20 degrees. That's your angle, VTZ. 20 degrees. Folks, you're going to have homework that you're going to have to take home and do. If you do it, fine. You're going to do great. If you don't, you are not going to pass. I'm not trying to be a fart face. I'm just trying to make you understand. You got to do some work, okay? You have to. Have to. Yep. It could be. Questions? CDFG is a rhombus. Find CD. CD is a what? Is it a side or an angle? It's a side. We're talking about a rhombus. Do you see how I mark up my picture in my problem? My rhombus. Say what? Well, what do you know about all the sides in a rhombus? They're all equal to the same thing. So this is congruent to this, this is congruent to this, congruent to this. How am I going to solve for that measure? 5a equals 3a plus 17. Subtract 3a. You get 2a equals 17. Divide by 2. Yeah, 8.5. And 8.5 is my answer, right? Why not? I got to plug it in. Hey, which side do you want to plug it in? Why? Because it's the shortest one. It's the shortest expression. So we want to go 5 times 8.5. That's 42.5. Which means CD is 42.5. Folks, do you understand what we're doing? And do you understand why we're doing it? Yeah? And then look at example 14, GCH. Highlight that angle, GCH. Hey, we're in a rhombus. What's inside? What's within the rhombus? 90-degree right triangles. So I'm going to throw that right there. Probably going to use that, you think? Yeah. Yeah. We're told that GCD, the whole thing, GCD is V plus 3 degrees. And we're told that CDF, this whole angle, is 6B minus 40. Oh my goodness gracious. Because I just go from what it says. If it says GCD, I start at G, I go to C, I go to D. And that's this angle right here. Okay? The second piece said CDF. So I've got CDF. It's talking about that whole angle right there, Justin. Okay? Huh. What kind of angles are we dealing with here, y'all? That's definitely an obtuse angle. What else? Supplementary. Why? Because they're consecutive angles. Consecutive angles, but this is a rhombus. But it's still a parallelogram because we're looking at consecutive angles, and we know that consecutive angles are equal to 180. Very good observation. Consecutive angles are equal to 180 in a parallelogram, but we know that a rhombus is a parallelogram. We know that. We know that, folks. So if I take the measure of angle GCD plus the measure of angle CDF and set them equal to 180, that will allow me to find GCH. Do you understand why? Look back at the big picture, okay? Not the picture itself, but kind of step back and think big picture, okay? These two angles, this one right here, Cody, and this one right here, they said they're consecutive angles. Do you agree with that? How do we know they're consecutive? There's one right after the other, right? We know in a parallelogram that consecutive angles are equal to what? 180 degrees. The only thing I have to use right now about angles is those two expressions, b plus 3 and 6b minus 4. I've got to find the measure b. I've got to find out what it is, okay? This is the only way that I know how to do it right now, okay? So plug it in. GCD is b plus 3. CDF is 6b minus 40. B plus 6b is 7b. Minus 37 equals 180. Got to add 37. I get 7b is equal to 217. Divide both sides by 7. I get 31. Does everybody understand how to get b? Okay. Now, you got to look back. Now, where do you think? What do you think option A on your SOL test is going to be? It's going to be 31. How many of you are going to click 31? How many of you would typically go 31? Done. Move to the next one. We don't want to do that. We got to slow down, put the brakes on. What's it asking us to find? Go back and read the problem. It's asking us to find GCH. Go back. GCH. It's the first one that I drew. I highlighted in there. GCH. It's that little piece. If I find out what B plus 3 is, all I have to do is divide it by 2. B is 31, right? Oh, shoot. 31 plus 3, which is 34. That means that whole angle is 34. What's half of that angle? 17. So we're going to take 34 divided by 2, which is 17. You better draw every single picture. And you better draw them big enough where you can put your answers, your angle measures within those figures. Okay? 18, 19, and 20 are rectangles. 21, 22, 23 are rhombuses or rhombi. Okay? Draw the figures big enough that you can draw inside of them and you can mark them up. I don't know how you could do it any other way. But that's fine, but you still draw your pictures and put your numbers in there, okay? Not everybody can do that. When you get done with 18 through 23, folks, I want you to go back to page 412 and do 6 and 7.